Good morning, everybody. We're going to let everybody get logged in and comfortable before we get started here today. So we'll give it about another 30 seconds.
Hope everyone has their coffee ready. I mean, I have mine. It's coffee time, so keep that up. Keep that in mind.
While you're getting comfortable, if you've never used Zoom before, when I start sharing the presentation with you all and it takes up your whole screen, you can navigate to the top of your screen and exit out or choose a different Zoom ratio so that it's not taking up your whole screen. Another housekeeping item here is that we prefer questions to go into the Q&A box, and you can find that Q&A box down. If you hover toward the bottom of your screen, you should see a menu bar, and you should see the letters Q and A, and that's where we want your questions to go, and we will answer them personally or we'll answer them live. And again, today's Coffee Talk presentation is in reference to the MIFPA notice. We want to be deliberate about separating out each ICWA provision in these webinars so that we can solely focus on one provision at a time. So your questions, we would prefer that they be related to the MIFPA notice today. We do have several questions that were left over from our ICWA inquiry Coffee Talk that we are currently going through, and we hope to have some responses to those leftover questions at as soon as possible.
Hey, Eric, we have one question regarding handouts. Can you let them know what we'll do with the PowerPoint?
So what I want to do is I want to post these PowerPoints on the SSIS resource page under webinar resources. I'll share my screen to see if I can bring that up for you. Just 1 second here. And I'll show you that there are already existing PowerPoints on this website that were related to last year's ICWA Coffee Talks, and they contain a lot of the same information. We are tweaking these presentations this year, so hopefully we have the up-to-date versions posted for all of you, but I'm going to give you the link here in just a second. So on County Link, we have an SSIS resource page, and on that resource page is a link for SSIS training. If you navigate down the right and you go to webinar materials and click on that, you will see a list of PowerPoints related to the ICWA Coffee Talk series. Again, these are going to be switched out, but I'm going to post the link to this exact page in the chat so that you are able to grab what you need. Oh, I sent that just to one person. 1 second here. So again, this is going to bring you to the webinar materials page, and you will be able to be linked to each individual presentation as we go. So I want to welcome everybody to the second session of ICWA Coffee Talk series related to the MIFPA notice, as indicated before. Before we get into the presentation, I would like to introduce you to our panelists. First, my name is Eric Kratt, and I'm the SSIS training lead. So I participate in these meetings to go over questions related to SSIS. And I'm going to pass the baton over to Carrie Owen to have her introduce herself.
Hoihane washte, ishtama zewi imaki api, tinta winta hamataha, umaha oyate mea. Welcome to Pajuta Sapa time. What I said was in the Dakota language, which is one of the indigenous languages of Minnesota. I said, good morning. My name is Carrie Owen. I live in Prairie Island, and I am from the Omaha tribe of Nebraska, enrolled member, but I've been living in Minnesota for a long time. And I said, welcome to coffee time, ICWA coffee time, which is Pajuta Sapa, which means Black medicine. So I'm glad to be here today. I'm an ICWA compliance consultant. I've been with DHS for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was at Hennepin County. Anybody listening from Hennepin County, shout out to you guys.
Shout out. Richie Smith.
All right. Hello, my name is Richie. I'm a ICWA compliance consultant. I've been with DHS for about 2.5 years. I'm also an enrolled member of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwa. One thing I always like to make sound out is that we're working with MIFPA and ICWA, but we're dealing with children that have political status. That means that they have dual citizenship to the United States of America and to their tribe. So just keep that in mind, that we always talk about race, but I want to make sure that everyone understands that these children have political status, citizenship to their tribes. That's why it's so important to keep these kids connected to their tribe. Thank you. Or McWitch.
Cindi Miller. You're muted, Cindi, sorry.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Cindi Miller. I'm an ICWA compliance consultant. I've been with DHS since July of 2018, and I am enrolled at the Lower Sioux community. It's in southwestern Minnesota. That's about it.
Watch out for that train. Summer day.
Right.
Tapwe Miwasin. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sommer Rosette. I am the SSIS training consultant with the ICWA unit, as well as an SSIS trainer with Child Safety and Permanency. I've been with DHS for roughly 8 years and on the training team for almost 3. And welcome, everybody.
And Reanna.
Good morning, all. My name is Reanna Jacobs. I'm a member with the Lower Sioux Indian community, as well as the ICWA supervisor here at DHS.
Thanks, everybody. And I wanted to make mention that we do understand that there are a lot of people participating in our Coffee Talk series that have been working with ICWA and MIFPA for several years. So we're here just to kind of enhance your understanding. But if you have something to add to the conversation, we also encourage you to contribute to the conversation in the question and answer box. And we definitely appreciate the work that you've been doing for Indian children across the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, you might stump us. So we want to get those answers, those questions, so we can figure them out for you, or someone else in the audience, like Erica said, they might have that answer. So it's a good learning point.
So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get our presentation started here. First, I want to make sure that everybody can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up. All right, thank you, Sommer. So again, our concentration today is on the ICWA provision, or I'm sorry, the MIFPA notice. So involving a tribe at the earliest point possible is super important. To be a part of the assessment or investigation and participate in face-to-face visit is an important component of active efforts in establishing a positive working relationship and collaboration from the beginning of a case with the child's tribe can potentially lead to better outcomes for Indian families. And again, assessment in reference to child protection cases as well as voluntary case management.
And this part was created, I mean, that part that Eric was talking about was created back in 1985. The tribes came together because they didn't have they were noticing their children weren't being notified right away. So that's why they came in. It became law in 1985. Just throwing a couple of little facts out there for you guys.
Thanks, Richie. Yeah, panelists chime in as you need to. In July 2015, MIFPA was substantially changed, and the 30-day notice of services to an Indian child was replaced with higher standard for notice requirements. for child protection and other child welfare related cases. The state notices are in addition to the federal ICWA notice of child custody proceedings. The flow chart listed on this slide references the MIFPA notice in 2 separate locations in reference to an immediate notice and a 7-day notice. This flow chart is also listed in the links to the resources that we hope to have, again, posted on that online resource page for all attendees to look at. So we have the lead social service agency is required to provide immediate notice or MIFPA notice to all known tribes by phone and email or fax. And then we'll go over that again. And then for child welfare cases within 7 days, following the same procedure with that initial phone call and then a follow-up email or fax.
And never certify that, never send that out. Sorry, I threw that in there.
Yeah, you don't have to certify the MIFPA notice. This again is related to the MIFPA notice. This is just something that you send to the tribe once you become aware that a family or the child in the family has Indian heritage. Notify the tribe within 24 hours from a screened-in child protection. I'm going to sound a little redundant here, but I want to make sure the message is getting across to everybody that we want to notify the tribe with a MIFPA notice within 24 hours of a screened-in child protection or family assessment / investigation. And again, going over to notify the tribe within 7 days for other child welfare, for example, parent support and outreach or children's mental health. And then here's just a picture of, that initial phone call that you're going to make with the tribe. You're going to notify the tribe by phone and then follow it up again with an email or a fax. And then I wanted to go over with everybody that we do have a list of resources where you can get that email and fax information. And again, that's going to be under this first link here. This is going to take you to the Federal Register. And I can put this link in the chat as well once the page comes up. So this is your Federal Register. And let's go ahead and find the chat here. And then if you navigate about halfway down this front page here, you will see a link to this www.baa.gov. And again, I can post this in the chat as well. And this will take you to a site where you can look up several different tribes across the country, all 570 plus recognized tribes. So you would enter the tribe into this field here, or the name or the address, phone, email, or whatever, and then you would find the ICWA designated agent by selecting this icon right here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this into the chat so that you all have that as well.
Yep, and that's the best one. It's updated every 4 months electronically that you can look at.
So I see some questions are coming in, and we're definitely going to get to those questions. I just want to go over a few slides related to the Social Service Information System, where we add information into some newly created fields within the last 3 years related to ICWA and MIFPA. So the first area of importance is to enter that race and ethnicity of the child or children on the case. So you're going to choose the race American Indian or Alaskan Native, and then the state filter, which doesn't always have to be Minnesota. It can be Iowa, Wisconsin, any of the 50 states. And then depending on what you put in this state filter for tribe list, you're going to get the bands or the tribes that are associated within that state territory in the tribe or ethnicity dropdown. And then SSIS is going to want to know what the tribal enrollment status is. If you don't know, you can simply select status unknown until the tribe responds. When the tribe responds, you can come back to the race screen and amend the screen to say either not eligible, enrolled or a member, or eligible for enrollment to membership. On the ICWA eligibility determination itself, when you create that eligibility determination, there will be a tab associated with MIFPA notices. The functionality would be to navigate to this field here. And the reason why you need to enter that race information first is so that you can select the race and ethnicity or tribal enrollment within this container or this section of the MIFPA notice tab in the ICWA eligibility determination. And you click the add button down here in the lower left-hand corner, and it will bring you up to a grid where you're going to select the Indian child's potential tribe, the type of notice that you're sending, whether it be an immediate child protection notice, a 7-day child welfare notice, or a voluntary placement review notice. And then you're going to select the date in the notice date field. Now you can have multiple races entered for a child. Say a family identifies heritage with the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe as well as the Fond du Lac tribe. You would put each individual Indian child's potential tribe into this grid by selecting that add-on button down here in the lower left-hand corner. So this is where you're telling SSIS that you sent the notice. The MIFPA notice is located in eDocs as well as SSIS. If you are an SSIS user and you have access to chronology documents, you would simply navigate to the chronology folder or the chronology node, I should say, and select new document. And then as always, you're going to select the search icon on the new document screen. And then once you get to the search parameter screen, you can group by state because it is a state document. And then under the category of placement ICWA. From the grid or the tree view, you're going to select the MIFPA notice to the Indian child's tribe. And then you're going to be brought to a setup screen. You're going to select participants and up to 6 children and the races associated and ethnicities associated with each one of those children. So only one notice in SSIS can be created per tribe that you're sending this notice to. So you might have to create a few different MIFPA notices if the child or the family says they have heritage with 3, 4 plus tribes. So one MIFPA notice would be for Fond du Lac, another notice may be for Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, etc. Again, this is just looking at where to input information in SSIS for the MIFPA notice. You select the children, the initial contact worker at your agency, and then your social worker information would appear under the social work box. You can change that information though, if it's somebody else who is the social worker and you're a case aide, for example, and you're filling this out for the social worker who's working the case. And then this is just a copy of the what the MIFPA notice looks like when it comes up on the edit screen in SSIS. And you would select, the type of notice that's being sent. The merge fields from the setup screen will bring in the children that you've identified on the setup tab, and then you would go through the document in edit mode and change out the dates and also include the information of the person that you contacted and when. And that notice would be sent in that follow-up email or fax. Again, this is just the remainder of that document.
I just wanted to add that this document, I know it's not like necessary or it's not mandatory that you use it, but when we do our reviews every year, we do look for this in documents. It's the first place we go when we're looking for MIFPA notices. And I can say that, it would be best practice to use this because it reminds you of everything you need to do step by step in that, in the MIFPA notice. And so it's really informative. It gives us everything we need for the reviews. So we don't even need other documentation besides that because it's so thorough. I don't know if Richie or Cindi, if you have anything else to add to that.
So nothing at this time. I guess the one document I always like to use, I always document, what document is that again? 5224, it's the ICWA, Indian Child Welfare Act Preservation Caseworker Checklist, what we call it short. So that's the best one I like to use for all the inquiries, for all our 6 provisions. But yes, what Carrie said is best for SSIS. We can find it, then we don't have to like bother you and say, hey, we can't find it. When did you call the tribe and stuff like that? So if it's documented there, that's golden.
Looks like we have some questions coming into the Q&A. So again, did you want to add anything, Cindi?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. I heard the train a coming.
Do
Do you have anything to add?
Not me.
That's her signal.
So to our panelists, if you navigate down to the question and answer, if you want to visually see these questions, feel free to go down to the Q&A section and check them out. Otherwise, I'm just going to read off the questions and we'll see how many we can get to today. So the first question is from Donna, and she asks, what is best practice in reference to a child welfare case where there is an unborn child whose parents have Native American heritage when child protective services will likely be necessary upon the birth of a child?
So there's nothing in ICWA or MIFPA that says you have to make a notice for unborn child. So that there's nothing in there that says that. However, best practice, of course, would be to notify the tribe, because especially if CP services will likely be necessary, because they may have some resources for this parent throughout their pregnancy. They may have some resources that they can prepare for if they should become involved with child protection. So that's up to you as a child protection worker, but best practice would be just to notify the tribe, start a conversation, establish that relationship. Anything else? Anybody else want to add?
That's the best communication. Let the tribes know about the unborn child, or even cases where we've had cases in court already where you have a mother already and having the chips and she's pregnant with another child and we know she's using. So you're letting the tribes know, you're keeping them communicated. That's the best thing you can do. Open line communication to that tribes, and then when the child's born, then you'll have more information. You can go from there.
There's an associated question related to the genogram, and the worker is saying they're brand new, and they wonder how a genogram can be completed within 24 hours. Oftentimes, as I just told my coworkers, I myself struggle to have a list of my relatives within a certain time. Can I answer that, or does somebody
go ahead,
else?
do it.
Go ahead.
We love it.
There's no pressure to this anonymous attendee to have everything figured out within 24 hours of a case. We want to treat the genogram as a working document. So the information you have up front is what you're going to enter into that genogram. And then as the case evolves and as you find out more information, you will add it to the genogram. So you do have to send the genogram with the MIFPA notice with the information you know at the time, and then continuously send it to the tribe as information evolves or comes into the case.
Yeah.
Or hopefully you're having a conversation with the tribe and letting them know, because you've already had established that relationship.
Yep. And that's a good example. It's a living document. Some counties we know we're actually like you working like for hours to get everything in there. And we're saying it's a living document. You get the information, you give it to the tribe, and then if there's more information, you go from there. So, but you're not the first one to do it and stuff. So, but welcome to social work.
Anne asks, what does the notice look like when we do not know the exact tribal contact? For example, the parent says the child is Cherokee. So
go ahead.
No, you go.
If the parent states that it's a Cherokee tribe or Anishinaabe or Ojibwe tribe, then you would be, you know what kind of what tribe that comes from. You may not know exactly which one, but you would be responsible for calling all the tribes, and you would use that interactive map that we had, that the one that Eric just showed you, and type it in there, and then you would send it. Like if it was Cherokee, I think there's 3 federally recognized Cherokee tribes. So you would be sending them MIFPA notice out to all 3 of them, and also following up with a phone call. But if you don't know the name, they just say, I'm affiliated with a tribe, I'm not sure which tribe, then you would send that notice out to the BIA.
And what Carrie said, there's only 3 Cherokee tribes. So, I mean, a lot of people get confused, saying, oh my God, there's like 300 tribes or something like that, Cherokee, but there's only 3 federally recognized tribes, and you send them to the federally recognized tribes.
I just want to point out one quick tidbit for the participants. If you guys, for those of you that are sending questions through chat, just a friendly reminder that we would like questions to go through the Q&A feature. And if you hover to the bottom of your screen, you should see the Q&A option to submit questions. Thank you.
And I want to follow up Ann's question really quick with in SSIS, if you don't know the exact tribe, but they identify as Cherokee, you would do as Carrie advised and send MIFPA notice to all of the Cherokee tribes. But in SSIS, you would select unknown tribe, and then you could select potentially Cherokee in the race screen. And I'm going off the top of my head, and I wish I had more of a concrete answer for you, but you can enter unknown on a race screen in reference to tribal heritage.
But there, if they know it's Cherokee tribe, the 3 tribes, would you just put like the 3 Cherokee tribes are listed in there? That's the way, or that you're saying there?
You could start there and then
Okay.
delineate and subtract as you become aware.
Okay.
But to piggyback off of that, if they don't know, if they feel like they do have Indian heritage but don't know exactly which tribe, that's when you're going to reach out to the BIA, right?
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So I have a question from Sandra, and she asks, how do you respond if parents tell you they will not do volunteer mental health case management with you if you have to notify the tribe? I have had 3 cases where they refuse services because they don't want the tribe notified or involved. It seems like kids might miss out on needed services in that case.
Well, first of all, I think you could start out by telling them that, because if it is an ICWA case, they could have more services, they could have more protections. I'm really trying to find out what it is, why they don't want. I know sometimes mental health itself can be a deterrent for them wanting to let other people know because there's such negative stigma attached to it. But really trying to find out from them why, and letting them know that they have extra protections if they're under ICWA. The tribe might have extra financial help or services to help them, and letting them know that information.
And sometimes it's building that trust, that relationship with them. It takes a while to go that route. And sometimes when they hear the tribe, they think that like almost a part of the government too, and they don't want to give the information up. They don't want any contact. But like Carrie said, there's more benefits, there's more protections, there's more things that can help the children succeed in life if you were to involve the tribe. That was a nice picture of you, Eric. I like that one.
Thanks. I noticed the sun was hitting my face and giving me some. Anyway, okay. Is the date on the notice, I'm assuming this is from Christy, is the date the day you call or the day you mail the notice if they are 2 different days?
Well, you would put the date you called the tribe, you would document that. And if you send it out, or not send it out. I'm assuming you're talking about email here or fax, not mail.
Right.
Email or fax, that you would document that day. But remember, it has to be within 24 hours. So hopefully those are both going out within 24 hours.
Yeah, it has within 24 hours of screened in family assessment or family intake. So that's, you got 24 hours to do that. So that's really important to do. Most counties nowadays, they send out that MIFPA, for the screeners, they inquire if do you have any American Indian heritage. And if they say yes, then you have to do that. If they say no, then you would have time until you inquire on that case. But it's the most important thing, I guess, remember, if you want to be 100% in MIFPA notice.
Is there only one date, Eric, to put in SSIS? Is that why there is, maybe I don't know that portion, I guess.
I believe so, yeah. And it would make
Okay.
sense to put the date that you called the tribe.
Yeah.
There's a follow-up question from Anne. What do you need to do when the tribe is unknown? And I believe I've included information in the ICWA and MIFPA data entry and SSIS tutorial that is up on the SSIS resource page. I'm going to link that in the chat for you, Anne. And if you still have questions about how to enter race information for unknown tribes after reading the information in this manual, then please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
And when they say unknown tribe, they say, we don't know what tribe, that's great. Then you would send it to the BIA. But active efforts would be maybe like asking, are you from Minnesota? And if they say like they're Ojibwe, then you would have to send MIFPA notice to the 7 tribes of Ojibwe to them. So just keep that in mind. Active efforts, do a little research, try to find out. Because if you find out, if you're more accurate, then you have more chance to get this child, finding the child's tribe.
There's a couple of questions, I think, in that last one. I just wanted to, I don't want to miss that because she's asking about unknown tribes, but then she states Cherokee. So yes, the response would be if you know it's Cherokee, you have to send a notice, a MIFPA notice, by fax or email to all 3 tribes, and you have to call all 3 tribes and document that within the 24 hours if it's a child protection case.
And there's a search feature on the race screen itself. Sorry, I'm getting an echo here. There's a search feature on the race screen itself next to tribe and ethnicity. If you click on that search icon and type in Cherokee, it will show you, I believe there's 3 related tribes
Right.
To Cherokee. It will show you the 3 tribes that have Cherokee ethnicity. Okay, we have lots of questions coming in, so let's continue. What should we do if we overdid it and did more than 1 eligibility for the same proceeding? Multiple assessments during the same case. Should we go in and delete the additional eligibility determinations since we are missing information like a verification? That's a really good question, Anonymous. So you have multiple assessments open up at the same time. They weren't referred to the same work group. Is that what you're saying? Or is this multiple work groups in different areas, like one work group might be open for children's mental health and one work group might be open for a child protection assessment or investigation? I kind of want to drill down into that question a little bit more to get some more context. I think there should be, when multiple work groups are open at the same time, there should be 1 ICWA eligibility determination for each child in the case or in the family. But I'm hesitant to advise to delete those until you're 100% sure that all of the, well, they're person related. So Reanna, do you have any suggestions or anybody, or should we table that? I think we'll table that.
Maybe we could table this and ask them to follow up. I know they're listed as anonymous, so we would need to get your contact information so we can follow up.
Yeah. Okay, Liza asks, when we open a child welfare assessment with a mother of an unborn child and we know there is a tribal, And we know there's tribal affiliation. Do we give a verbal notice? I think we already answered that, right? There's no stipulation to send a MIFPA notice for unborn children, or?
Yeah.
Right, we answered that already, but if you do call them, like we said, best practice would be to notify the tribe, then you wouldn't use that MIFPA notice, you would just document it in your chronology notes. And then you might want to put something, a little title or whatever on there saying, you know, courtesy MIFPA notice or something like that in the chronology notes. So it would be, you would be able to find that easy.
Yeah, and some tribes will take that and they'll like that information, so that's good. Some you might not get a response back, but some tribes will really work with their clients.
It's been brought to my attention. I'm going to go back a couple questions on that date question. What date do you put on the MIFPA notice? So Callie, thank you for responding. This is a group effort and I really appreciate. There are 2 dates on the form, one for when you call and one for when you send the document. Crystal asks, would a notice need to be sent if there is an extended foster care case reopened for youth older than 18?
What if they're
a MIFPA notice and they're older 18?
That's a good question.
I'm pretty sure you almost do.
I think the ICWA law.
This is Reanna.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you, Reanna.
So a MIFPA applies to children until they're 21. So ICWA is to children until they're 18. However, MIFPA expands on that and applies until they're 21. If they are unmarried and they're in the custody of
Oscar?
a local social service agency or tribal agency when turning 18, extends beyond their 18th birthday.
That's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Reanna.
Okay. Can the notice forms in SSIS autofill the tribal information? I do believe once you select a participant, any race or tribal information you've selected for that individual auto-populates into the document. I'm going to test that out though, just to make sure. So the MIFPA notice in SSIS is the document you email or fax to the tribe. Yes, you can print it out and email it, scan it, email it, or fax it, whatever your agency requests that you do.
And you can also email directly from SSIS.
But you would want to check with your agency's privacy protocols to see if they want you sending emails through SSIS, that is. Terry asks, are MIFPA notices going to be able to be copied from work group to work group yet, especially if the case opens again? It is my understanding that because the MIFPA notices are not person documents, they're related to the work group. So I have not heard that they are going to be person centered. I think that would, and because to follow up with that, when a case reopens, say it closes and reopens, you still have to send new MIFPA notices out.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Yes.
So even if you had copies of the MIFPA notice, follow each individual person from case to case, you wouldn't send that very same one. You would create new ones.
One more example, like if you had a case, a MIFPA notice, and you sent the MIFPA notice to Red Lake, like last year, a year and a half ago, you might say, no, they're not ICWA eligible. You still, in case opens up again, you need to send it to that same tribe, because Red Lake changed their status now. They expanded their enrollment, so you need to keep that in mind. Always send it off to that tribe, because the tribes changed their determination on how they're going to have their children enrolled into that tribe.
And there's a suggestion in the chat from Lindsay that it would be nice if the genogram could follow the person instead of the work group. And I believe there are enhancements requests for that. I don't know where they're at though. Callie asks, if you have sent the 24-hour notice and then determine the family needs case management services on a voluntary basis, do we have to send out the MIFPA notice again to notify within 7 days?
Yes.
So
Well, I think if this is in the same, like you open up a case, and I'm kind of trying to figure this piece out. If they're saying that they opened up a case and it doesn't go into at-home placement or something, but they decide the family needs, they ask the family if they need services, or are they sending it to a child welfare? Are they opening up a different work group in child welfare? I guess.
I think I think what she's saying is they opened up so one thing I want to make clear is that this notice is sent out within 24 hours of the screening decision. So if you determine that this needs to be screened in for child protective services, assessment, or investigation, the clock starts from the time the agency screens it in.
Yes.
So you don't want to send the MIFPA notice until the agency has made that screening decision. But if you did screen it in and sent that 24-hour MIFPA notice and then decided that to kind of backtrack and override the screening decision and refer it to case management services, if that scenario existed, I think she wants to know if she has to then send another MIFPA notice out within 7 days.
Not if it's just going to case management, but if it's going to a different area, and like if it's going to children's mental health, or it's going to like a voluntary service, then you would send a MIFPA notice out again. But if it's still in the same work group and you're deciding that to offer this, that this family is going to be continue with services, then you don't have to send a new MIFPA notice if it's in the same work group. Does that make sense?
It does to me, Carrie.
Okay. I was so it's kind of a tricky question. I mean, I think that's what she's asking, so that would be the answer for that piece. If not, then just sending a new question or add additional information, and we can answer that when we get to it.
But okay. I mean, the reason why we do like mental health, if it goes to mental health or PSOP, because we're finding out that maybe they're not contacting the people in mental health or PSOP, so that's why we want that information going to, so we can have the most updated information for child being served for PSOP or mental health issues. The tribe will know that way because it's getting lost.
All right, everybody take a sip of their coffee and then we'll go on to the next question.
Wow, I'm driving here with this coffee right now.
This is a coffee talk. Okay, Lindsay asks, when we can't get a hold of the tribe by phone or fax won't go through, and we can't find an email address to use, should we then mail the notice to ensure they are getting notified? This has come up for us a handful of times with out-of-state tribes.
Well, I always look at the federal, the BIA, the Federal Register, make sure that you got that right phone number and the fax or the email. And also, I guess document in SSIS notes that this is what you did and it was denied and this is what happened. And then I guess mail it out that route. But that's kind of what we want to do. We want to make sure that you're providing, you're calling them, faxing or emailing. And if you have a problem with that, document that in SSIS and mail it. I guess that's what we have to do.
So an additional resource may be to reach out through Google and Google the tribe. The tribe may have their own website and may have services and contacts that may not necessarily be reflected or updated in the registry. So that's also another avenue to reach out to.
Stacy asks, do we need to send a MIFPA notice when we file a permanency petition with the courts? If so, what checkbox would we select for type of notice? So I think this is a different notice that she's referencing, correct? You wouldn't send a
Right.
MIFPA notice. You would have already done that prior.
Well,
Right.
I think if it comes in initially and it opens up as a TPR, then you would send a MIFPA notice. But if it's opens up as a CHIPS and you've sent out your MIFPA notice and then it maybe changes over to a TPR, you don't have to do it again. That's the ICWA notice.
Kind of tricky question on that one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what they're talking about.
So MIFPA notices for the earliest point of engagement with the tribe at the beginning of a screened-in child protection report or voluntary case management. And then we'll get into more detail about the ICWA notice in another one of our coffee talks. But the ICWA notice is what you would send, as Cindi indicated.
Mhm.
Next question. I provide children's mental health, so I only need to do this for the child that I provide services for, correct? I do not need to send for any siblings that do not receive my children's mental health services, correct?
Who is this question from? I'm trying to read it, sorry.
From Jody.
Oh, Jody, okay.
She wants to know if she's providing services for one child in a family, she only has to send MIFPA notice related to that one child, right?
If it's that one child she's providing services for, is that what she's
Yes.
not providing services to the other children?
That's correct. I think that's correct. If it's just
Okay.
the one child in the family.
Yep, just the one child.
Good question.
Good question. Yeah. So the next question comes from Rachel or Rochelle. I'm going to say Rachel. I believe I've asked this before, but want to clarify again. If we use the DHS fillable documents, could we just upload that to the case in SSIS as opposed to completing this document tab that was just shown in SSIS? There is a way to upload documents into a case through attached files. So there's attached files that are related to the work group, and then there's attached files related to the child. I think the preference would be that you complete the form in SSIS so we can see the documentation under chronology, but I don't know if we've ever had a conversation with this panel before on uploading the documents under attached file. If you use the fillable DHS forms.
I think this came up when we were doing some of the 209 trainings. I don't know if you remember that, Richie. Do you remember what?
No, I don't remember that.
I guess my suggestion right off the bat would be if you do submit them through attached files that you case note about it and you title your case note with MIFPA notice and show, you know, where it is. So if there's a compliance review, then the staff who are reviewing the case know to go to attached files to see those MIFPA notices.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful. We see that a lot now when they, for instance, they may fill out the MIFPA notice in SSIS and it saves as a document. But when we go into interview with parent or child, they have a bold marking there saying MIFPA notice or whatever, and then it'll say see documents or something. And then we automatically know, oh, great, we'll go to documents. That's where they have it. So it's a good idea to put it in chronology because that's where we're looking initially.
Yeah. If that's what you're talking about, uploading documents, yeah, I love the uploading documents because we can find the information and it's all right there. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, next question.
So Brooke asks, she states that there's a parent in her agency that frequently opens for services, and she knows that the parent is enrolled in a tribe in another state, but the children are not eligible for enrollment. Does this individual still have to send the MIFPA notice to the tribe every time, even though?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anytime this case opens, you absolutely have to send a MIFPA notice. And frequent flyer, is that some kind of new term or?
Well, I kind of modified the terminology just for the.
Well, thank you, because I don't know. Okay.
So yeah, you would send the notice each time because I've heard Richie say several times that information changes over time and children will, rules change and then children will be eligible for enrollment when they weren't before. So continuously.
And the reason why they do that is because the tribes are losing their children, and without no children, there's no tribes. So it's very important to the change in enrollment status. A lot of tribes are thinking of new ways to make their enrollment larger, and always send it out to that tribe because they could change their enrollment status. And it doesn't hurt right in the beginning doing it instead of finding out a year and a half later that this child is ICWA eligible.
I agree. Tribes are being really creative on how they can protect their children.
So Kelly asks, what is the requirement for MIFPA notices when a family indicates they have Native American heritage but do not know any tribal affiliation? And I think we addressed that earlier. We would want to send that MIFPA notice and try to get the BIA.
Right.
And then she follows up the question with, what is the requirement for MIFPA when we have an open assessment and new allegations come in and a new assessment or investigation is open? Do we have to respond or resend the notice? My apologies.
If you're already working with the family and say a new report comes in, but you're already offering services to that family, you do not have to do a new MIFPA notice. You're already open with the family. You already did a MIFPA notice. Okay.
But if you have the, go ahead, Richie. I keep talking over.
I'm sorry, no. It's so important. But that when you're talking about the MIFPA notice to BIA, you just make the phone call and you fax or email. You don't send the MIFPA notice certified mail to the BIA. Just want to stress.
Or anybody.
Yeah, or anyone. That's true. Or anyone. A lot of counties were doing that. We're trying to correct them on that, and we don't want that. That's an extra expense, and you don't want to have extra expenses right now. So just have to phone them and email or fax them.
Really quick before we move over to the next question. There's a question that came in. There's a few questions that have come in through chat. I'm trying to direct them to the Q&A. But I didn't want to, I don't want to miss them. One of the questions is, can you please clarify the MIFPA notice does not need to be sent certified, but the ICWA notice needs to be sent certified?
Yes, MIFPA notice does not need to be sent certified.
Absolutely.
Never.
And we look at the MIFPA notice as kind of like, I hope I don't confuse anyone like this, but what helps is we look at it as a social service notice. So it's basically you get a child comes into your agency, you knock on the tribe's door, well, knocking, but calling them and saying, hey, guess what? We have one of your children that, might be one of your children. And then you follow up with a fax and you're saying, we want your input. This is going on. So you're noticing, you're giving them notice. A social service notice. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And then ICWA is totally different. It's, I don't want to go there because that'll confuse people. But
and one thing you remind me, You reminded me, Carrie, that MIFPA notice, if you have out-of-state tribes and you send that MIFPA notice to another out-of-state tribe and they said, we don't want this. Well, you have to just tell them this is our state law and we're required to make a phone call and fax or email you. So just let them know that. Sometimes we get a lot of kickback from a lot of others ones saying, we need the ICWA notice. Well, you will get that, but the MIFPA notice comes first. That's our law.
I always look at it as a MIFPA notice is the state, the notice required by Minnesota law, and ICWA is a federal law. So if you go to a state that doesn't have their own ICWA statutes like Minnesota, they might not have anything like a MIFPA notice, but we do. So that's kind of how I keep them separate.
And again, one other question, and I think we get this question quite a bit, and we might have already answered it early on. How do we send the notice in 24 hours of an assessment being screened in when you don't find out there's Native American heritage until you've interviewed the parent? You send it within 24 hours once you've found out.
Right.
Yes. Once you find out, once you have information about tribal affiliation, you have 24 hours from that time to send it out. But that's why we do inquiry, right? So we find out right away and send that MIFPA notice.
Yep. All the counties that are getting 100% compliance of MIFPA notice, they are inquiring at when they call in at the intake. So you're inquiring that. If they say yes, then you send that MIFPA notice out right away. If they say no, then when you go out to interview and you find out, then you would send that. But it has to be documented.
So then I have to backtrack. I just have to backtrack and amend what I said earlier, then that you have to send it out within 24 hours. So there's actually two criteria: within 24 hours of a screen and investigation, or within 24 hours of finding out that there's Indian heritage.
Yes. Even screeners are asking the question. I mean, that's the ideal place to ask. Do you know if this family, sometimes people who call in or are calling in a report, they have information about the family. Do you know if this family has any American Indian heritage? We're seeing it in screening, in the initial screening reports. Awesome work to those counties.
All right, we have 4 minutes left and I want to power through a few more questions. Emily asks, more often than not, families will say they have Native American ancestry and don't know what specific tribe or even state. For example, they will say, I know it's a Sioux tribe, but I don't know which one. At this point, are we expected to send the MIFPA notices to all Sioux tribes in the US or to the BIA only? I think we've answered that already. Yep. All Sioux tribes, or
that'd be active efforts.
And again,
but I think if I would, you know, and really that's when you can start doing inquiry with other people to try to get more information. But this isn't, you know, this is a situation that comes up a lot. Given our history and everything that American Indian people have been through, out-of-home placements, boarding schools, some people may know what tribe they are. They may know they're Sioux, but not know exactly what tribe they are. There's been situations in child protection where I've become in contact with people. Richie has stories where they don't know, they just know they're Sioux, and then find out you can connect them with the tribe they are, and they are eventually enrolled. And those are awesome stories. That happens a lot. Yes, you are required to send it to all tribes. If they name a Sioux tribe, or if they name a Ojibwe tribe, if they say Ojibwe, or if they say Cherokee, you are required to send it to all of those tribes.
And I get that's exhaustive. What Carrie said is that, you know, a lot of these families, my own family, I mean, my grandma went to a boarding school. She was shipped off. And so you don't learn your culture. You don't understand what tribe you're from. So a lot of these families, they might say, hey, I might be Sioux. So that means you really need to provide active efforts and reach out to those tribes and make that final determination so we know, because it's so important to try to keep these families connected. And many times in the court systems, we've seen time and time again where we've done this and the children we found a tribe. We even found one tribe out in Alaska. Amazing. But that one county did that and they did an excellent job on that kid. So
I recall that I had a county that sent out 18 notices because they had a situation like that, and they actually got a hit on one of them.
Yeah.
So it you know, it can be done, and you know, sometimes you'll find that the tribe will step up and recognize that person that you're inquiring about.
Good question.
Well, maybe we should end there because we only have the hour allotted for this time, but there are still several
No. Just kidding.
questions. Should we continue? Should we go
We
on?
just want to keep going
Does
on.
everybody have a day where we can go through everybody's?
I know.
I just want to answer a couple of these. What do you do when you don't hear back from the tribe and you have a 45-day window of time to close your assessment or investigation? There will be new information released with version 21.1 at the end of February on how to select pending under the tribal response section of the ICWA eligibility determinations and SSIS, and some follow-up direction for what you need to case note in reference to that.
Tribes are not required to
I know what you're
respond to
saying.
the respond to the MIFPA notice. They're not required to do that.
Okay. And on that note, I want to extend a thank you to all of you who are participating with our second generation ICWA Coffee Talk series. We definitely appreciate your patience. We always welcome feedback. Please feel free to email me. Let me know how you're feeling about these, if we need more time, etc. I wish I had a survey for you to complete. Maybe that's a discussion for another time. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our panelists, Carrie, Reanna, Cindi, Richie, Sommer, Rosette, for always being willing to participate in these and answer these really important questions. And on that note, I bid you adieu, and we will see you in 2 weeks for our next Coffee Talk.
See you guys.
So stuff. See you later.
Later.